Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the 2 Count. And I am here with my boy Dave Duran. But if you'll notice, there's a tiny little circle actually on Dave Shawn Michaels logo, which is kind of comical. Amy, you're on a hat. Congratulations.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And, you know, Amy has one of the most amazing Twitter feeds that I personally follow. She provides some of the best...
I do as well.
Some of the best context on professional wrestling, and I truly mean that. And have literally, since we've started the 2 Count, I think we've been talking to Amy on Twitter. So it's an absolute pleasure to have her on the show. And normally, when we're going to film an episode, we do it coming from the angle of discussing a particular news event, a particular topic, something as it relates to the industry. We're going to have a little bit of that here. But more so, what we want to do is while we're sitting with Amy, while I've got Dave, we're going to all come together. We're going to talk about, fresh off the heels of the State of the Union, right? We're going to talk about the state of the union for professional wrestling. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're looking at one of the most exciting times in the professional wrestling industry that I've personally ever seen. And I've been watching wrestling since I'm 3 years old. I am now 34. But before we jump into that, I'm going to ask you guys to please like this video, subscribe to the channel. We want you guys to kick out with us here on the 2 Count. So, let's get started with the 80-pound balls in the room. And those 80-pound balls would be Vince McMahon's. Let's talk about the current state of WWE. Because I feel like WWE is at a really unique time in its history. People want to compare it to, when WCW was around. But back then, at least WWE had a very solid product. And they were able to elevate superstars from their younger talent when they lost the older talent. I'm not sure they have that capability anymore. So, Amy, you are the guest on the show. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the current WWE product.
So it seems that WWE is shifting, and I think that there certainly are some parallels to that era, especially with AEW on the horizon, where you have some competition, and that's driving a clear need for change and direction. We had the McMahons coming out in late December, and that was when everybody knew that AEW was going to be announced on New Year's Eve. So this was something that they were trying to get ahead of and just trying to change the game with. I think the difference between those two eras, though, is that with the advent of social media and this sort of global connectivity that we have, people are held more accountable to their actions, to their changes, to their storylines, and a lot faster than they ever were before. So instead of having this gradual change or really ability to sit there with whatever product they have, now they're faced with people talking about it, for better or for worse. You have, on one hand, conversations maybe pertaining to Raw or SmackDown occasionally where it's just not quite hitting the mark. And then you have conversations like NXT's Halftime Heat where it's just blowing up Twitter and it's like, this is incredible. So you have this instant feedback of what people are liking and what they want to see more of. I do hope that WWE continues with this change, this route of change that they're doing. I was really skeptical when they said that they were going to be making big changes, but it seems that they are. It seems that they're taking some of the best parts of the Attitude Era and bringing that back in. And their women's division is just skyrocketing in power and prowess right now. So I think that they are certainly in this area of change. I hope that continues. It'll be interesting to see how much they respond to what their fan base would really like to see as they go forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's funny you mentioned the women's division because to me, I tune into WWE programming, and it's not because I'm so mutually invested in the show anymore, right? I'm not sitting there saying, I want to watch a 3-hour episode of Raw. I don't think anyone ever said they wanted to watch a 3-hour episode of Raw. but I don't want to particularly watch. I tune in for individualized superstars, right? So if I'm tuning into Monday Night Raw, it's because I want to see Finn Balor. It's because I want to see Seth Rollins. And call me an indie darling guy as much as you want, but I will always support those guys because they are incredibly talented, whether their storyline dictates that or not. When you're talking about what's working in WWE, you hit it right on the head. I think there's two things that are holding WWE up right now. That first piece that's holding WWE up is NXT. Because NXT is probably the best promotion right now. Which is kind of crazy to say, but NXT is better than Ring of Honor. I love New Japan Pro Wrestling, but NXT puts on equal quality matches with higher production value and gets you more invested in the storyline. So we're talking about probably the best promotion in the world right now. It's in NXT. WWE, and that's why I think people also get frustrated with WWE. It's because you're taking guys from this NXT roster that are just phenomenal, like Andrade Cien Almas, like Finn Balor, like Samoa Joe, like Shinsuke Nakamura. Guys that have performed all over the world, and what you're essentially doing is calling them up and having them sit in Titus Catering, right? They're not getting the ability to show their talent, and that's part of the frustration. The other piece to me that's holding WWE up is the women's division. But more so, it's Becky Lynch. You know, we could talk about the women's division all we want, and Sasha and Ronda put on an amazing match the other day. But anytime a particular women's wrestler steps onto the screen, I almost yawn, right? I love Sasha Banks. She's fantastic. But Sasha Banks is meant to be a bitch. Like, I want to see the boss back, right? I don't want to see this, like, boss and hug connection stuff. Like, you want to tell me Bayley's going to come out and wave her arms? I love Bayley. That's fine, right? That's who she is. But I need Sasha Banks to be a bitch. The thing to me that I've embraced with WWE is Becky Lynch has found a groove to a level I have not seen since Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Stone Cold saved the company one time. I think if something saves WWE's main roster at this current state and time, it's Becky Lynch.
I don't disagree with you, buddy. But I will jump in and say that what I think that's killing WWE right now is their writers or their creative, whoever it is.
God, yes. God, yes. The creators are they're the least creative team I've ever seen in my life, and I work in advertising.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, dude. Like, how do you have someone like EC3? This guy, he's a better talker than he is a wrestler.
Yep.
You're just gonna, for a month almost already, the most quiet guy ever.
Let's make him be the narcissist Lex Luger and have him stand in the mirror and stare at his ass.
Stupid. It's so dumb, dude. Yeah, it basically is a narcissist all over again.
That's exactly what it is.
Like, come on, man. Let this guy talk. Let this guy be what he was doing in the Indies.
Yep. Agreed.
I think there's definitely an argument there with what you were saying with NXT and with booking is that, we have two critical fan bases for WWE. You have the hardcore fans who love NXT for the wrestling, who follow these guys on the indies, and you have casual fans, and I do not in any way mean that as a negative or derogatory statement at all, because I do think that that's something worth considering, is that you have people who do come in to check out Raw for the storylines or SmackDown for the wrestling of the storylines, or maybe they catch a few pay-per-views and then jump back in and they just want to see what's going on, and I think that's also valid. So I think that you can write compelling storylines to hook people in consistently. I think the biggest problem that WWE is suffering right now is the lack of consistency, where you have people who are flipping and turning heel or turning face, and you're not sure until they come out and you're like, oh, okay, this guy's a heel.
It's like Elias.
That's how they killed Braun Strowman. Wow. That's how they killed Braun Strowman's momentum. Look, I'd rather a better wrestler than a big man, and I enjoy, but at the same time, I can appreciate Braun Strowman for what he is, right? Braun Strowman is your throwback to that, like, Big John Studd type of wrestler, that, like, 80s dominant wrestler. And there was a point where it looked like he could be the most over man in the company with this get these hands bullshit, right? And the casual viewer can get into that, and I can appreciate that. He's never going to put on a 5-star match, but he can damn sure put on an entertaining one with the right opponent. And what do? You flip him heel for the premise of having him fight Roman Reigns, and then Roman disappears, and all of a sudden he's a face again.
You're just totally confused. And I think that's a very tricky thing to understand, because I know that for me, so you're watching Raw and SmackDown. That's 5 hours every week. That's WrestleMania every week that you're watching, and that's a lot of time investment. And I know that a lot of times that leaves me scratching my head wondering, what in the world just happened? Or, all right, whatever, like, I'm going to go flip over to watch the State of the Union address. Let's not even go that far. You can just say, listen, they don't have to write creatively for everyone.
I'm not saying, hey, give Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder fucking
you be nice to the Major Brothers, okay?
Hold on. I'm not shitting on them. What I'm saying is, you can't write a main event created for two talents who are not. They're over, but they're not over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but so, Cody Rhodes would argue that there was a time where Zack Ryder was the most over person on the planet.
And they tried to do that, and they just shitted it on him. So whatever. Yeah. But you can write a storyline for Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? Or like, for example, Ronda Rousey. What the fuck is her story? There's none.
The Ronda Becky thing, I think, is a good example of that. Like, you have Becky Lynch, who is the most over person in the company right now, in spite of what WWE wanted. They had Ronda Rousey come in, and she was supposed to be their Hogan. She was supposed to be their warrior, their fierce, badass woman, and she was supposed to be their ace of the roster. And all of a sudden, Becky Lynch comes up, and they're like, okay, no, we can't have that. We're going to try and turn Becky heel. And the crowd's like, no, dude. Like,
that was amazing.
Becky, that's not happening.
That was seriously amazing to watch. God bless that crowd. God bless that crowd.
Yes, and cut this promo where she's like, you guys were never there for me. And it's like, everyone's like, yes, we were. And like, that didn't work to turn her heel. And so they just keep trying and trying and trying. And I think that's the thing, is where you're watching it and you're just like, dude, this is the story. Like, turn Ronda into a badass heel, because she is fierce, she's tough, she could kill you with her hands.
Yep.
Like, those promos are awesome, and her promos are
like,
the best when she's fired up. And let Becky be the one that everyone wants to cheer for, because that is just how it's organically happening. And to try to turn against that, I think, is really challenging, and I think that's going to put them in a tough spot if they keep doing that.
And look, they're building towards horsewomen versus horsewomen, right? So at the end of the day, like, there's no doubt in my mind that the only reason that the other three aren't up yet is because Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke need more time in NXT before they get called up. But I will tell you, you have 3 of the 4 horsewomen of the MMA heel, right? Ronda is the only face. It doesn't make sense. She has to turn eventually.
Because that was going back to my point. Why do you? They try to sell her as the baddest bitch on the planet.
Well, she is. I mean, she could beat you.
But they just said it. They just marketed it differently. If it was the Attitude Era, she would have been the baddest bitch on the planet.
She would have been.
And that's what she should have been the entire time. I don't know why are you making this girl who's, like Amy said, tough and can kill you with her bare hands? Why are you bringing her in as a fucking face?
Have a hug.
For what?
Let's just hug the Bella Twins. Let's have Ronda Rousey come out and hug the Bella Twins.
You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
At the same time, though, you look at the kids in the audience, and I think that's something that is, like, there's so many different facets to consider, and you see just how much merch there is, how many cosplayers there are, how many kids adore seeing Ronda Rousey come out. And I think that, having her smiling when she comes out, I've got no problem with that. Like, that's awesome. She wants to be a wrestler. She wants to pursue this career. Her being happy to be there, so to speak, is great. But she can be happy to be there and still be a fierce badass to her opponent. And I think they might be going in that direction a little bit more than they were before. I hope that continues, because, man, that would be so awesome to see just this clearly defined, gritty, fierce fight between these women. It would be incredible.
You bring up a really interesting point.
I want to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to ask me a quick question. Since you're a woman, what's up with her fucking makeup?
Oh, line of the episode.
All right. Sometimes it works out really well. She's like, you see that movie Alien? It kind of reminds me of that, where she's like this fierce predator, maybe going back to the movie Predator. I don't know. That's the vibe I think they're going with.
Every fucking time I see her, I say that she looks like a fucking peacock.
At least this time she was the White Ranger. I think I'm cool with the White Ranger look. That worked.
Oh my god,
Amy!
I don't understand it. It looks ridiculous.
So despite Dave trying to figure out Ronda Rousey's makeup, Amy, you bring up a really interesting point that I think, we're part of the IWC. This podcast, your podcast, we're all part of the internet wrestling community, right? And a lot of times we get a bad rap. And the rap that we get is that we don't understand. Well, you're talking to a show right now that the three of us have a dynamic that's a little bit different. And I think that our dynamic that is different. Sorry, after selling all day, your voice just starts to... with a dynamic that's different is you have two fathers and a mother on the phone right now, right? Or in this conversation right now. So I completely agree with you that I personally hate when people are like, oh, they're trying to cater to the kids and that's why it's boring to adults. Like, there's a reason we fell in love with this product when we were younger. And I guarantee you some of the stuff now, like, we go back and watch it and it's funny because we loved it. But there was a corniness element to it, right?
Oh, God, yes.
I mean, look,
yes.
Razor Ramon was not Razor Ramon at all. Like, Scott Hall is just some big dude, but it was cool that he was pretending to be Scarface, and we enjoyed it. What the hell is a Diesel? Why would any man be named Diesel? It didn't make sense, right? But it worked for us back then, and for these kids, it works now. But I think WWE has to choose one of two directions when it comes to creating their content. And I've always said this. They either have to embrace reality or move towards fiction, right? And when I say they have to embrace reality is, in the world, the area for emotion is gray, right? Not every person is totally good, and not every person is totally bad. Everybody has this little bit of a grayness to them. But I feel like, I'm going to use Kevin Owens as an example, and not just because I'm decked out in Kevin Owens merchandise at the moment, but I'm going to use Kevin Owens as an example here. Kevin Owens is an amazing heel. Fantastic, right? One of the baddest guys if you let him be Kevin Owens. I could only compare him when used correctly to Bam Bam Bigelow with better mic skills. That is the best way for me to explain Kevin Owens, right? And
Bam Bam Bigelow.
Bam Bam Bigelow was one of the best in-ring workers of his generation at his size. Kevin Owens is the same type of guy, but he's got better mic skills. It's almost as if Jericho and Bam Bam had a baby. But my point in saying this is that at the end of the day, Kevin Owens should have come up like he was in NXT, right? His character was a badass heel. But the second he comes up to the main roster, all of a sudden he's running away from fights. Why? Because WWE works within the traditional confines of professional wrestling, meaning that a heel needs to be a coward and a face needs to be a hero, right? But Austin was a tremendous face and was never a coward. A tremendous face and was more heel characteristics. And they need to embrace that morally gray area. And if they do that, that's how they're really going to start to connect with the crowd. On the flip side, if they decide to go the other route, they have the WWE Network. Stop airing reruns of Total Bellas and give me some original programming that builds backstories on characters. So if you're going to go the fictional route and say that Lars Sullivan is a monster, show me Lars Sullivan working in Shipyard beating people up as a story or a program that they create that's fiction that gives you something to bite into, almost the way the old vignettes did. So that they have to choose one or two, and I feel like they want to be reality, but they don't embrace reality.
I think that's fair. And I do think that you can do a mixture of both. I think that, Becky's probably the closest to doing a mixture of both. Yep. Ronda might be if they would just let her just roll with it. And I do think that there are ways to do that really effectively. I know we're talking about WWE right now, but that's one of the things that I like about New Japan is that they have a gray area sort of dynamic within their roster. So heels and faces are such, but they're also conflicted or complex. And I think that having that is something that people can really relate to because that mirrors humanity. At the same time, I think that, if the Superman supervillain dynamic has worked for so long for WWF, that it's probably a bit challenging to move away from that. But I do think that with, again, the advent of that instant feedback that you get with, social media and just with people in general, you can actually start to see the changing dynamic of culture as it changes. And I think that we're kind of in that cultural shift right now. And so it seems like this is something that they're probably going to end up having to embark more on in the future, is bridging that reality and fiction together.
And I think if you look at the NXT roster, that's exactly it. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa has been probably the best storyline, or one of the best storylines in professional wrestling over the course of the past year. And what are we getting out of Johnny Gargano? We are getting the pure vanilla white meat babyface who's completely conflicted and has been destroyed by his former best friend to the point where he doesn't know the difference between good and evil anymore. And it's that moral ambiguity that's making it a very interesting story. And that's what I think we're looking for with WWE. And I think what's happening is you have several guys that fit into that morally gray area better. You got a guy like Dean Ambrose, which I think that bridges the conversation to another company very shortly. You got a guy like Dean Ambrose who ultimately at the end of the day would have been the perfect tweener. He's a Brian Pillman, Steve Austin type of candidate that can just cut loose and go crazy. And I think what's happened is because there's no morally gray area, you're losing guys like that. And you're 100% right. New Japan nails a lot of things, and we'll talk about it when we get to New Japan. But if WWE would put into place that gray area, they could have made Ambrose a superstar that sat in between Rollins and Reigns, because Rollins is your babyface and Reigns should have been a heel. But we can digress on that one for a second. And really, I mean, when we're talking about WWE, they're facing a major problem now, because what they've done is they've gone and they've signed everyone to prevent them from going elsewhere, to prevent the global expansion of New Japan, to prevent the growth of Ring of Honor, to prevent the growth of AEW. And now they basically have like 200 people sitting on their roster that they can't do jack shit with. And it's creating a real issue. And a lot of the underutilized talent is looking to leave. And that's why every other week you're hearing speculation of someone leaving for AEW. And first shots were fired. We saw this week, as we've covered on this channel and videos, that Dean Ambrose is leaving WWE. And my sneaky suspicion is that Jon Moxley will show up at AEW. So guys, do you think that's enough for us to jump into AEW chat? Because I know I'm excited.
I think so. I am so excited for AEW. Their announcement tomorrow is going to be spectacular. I know that there are a lot of people that we're expecting to hear, like Kenny Omega. But I think there are going to be some new surprises in store. And I'm really interested in just seeing how their roster develops from here, because what they have so far is really spectacular. And it is great to see that there are valid options on the table for people in WWE. And I think that is going to be something that drives better pay for wrestlers, better booking for wrestlers, better utilization for wrestlers. They certainly can't utilize everyone on the roster. As you were saying earlier, you can't write a main event story for everyone. But I do think that it's going to push people to have some of those changes and to have just some better booking. I mean, we're seeing the Revival now, and we hadn't seen them for months until suddenly you start hearing them talking to the Bucks on Twitter, and then you start seeing this AEW stuff come up, and then it's like, oh, okay. So you're seeing a definite impact on that, and I think AEW is really going to push the whole wrestling world to elevate themselves just a little bit higher, and I think that's going to be better for everyone.
I could not agree with you more. It's been funny to watch WWE, and Jericho said it best. Hey, WWE, you can keep pushing your nobodies on TV. We're only interested in 6 of your talent. Jericho's been in rare form, man. Chris Jericho is just, he's the vocal asshole of AEW right now, and it's incredibly amazing. Dave, I'm sorry. Amy, so you know, for some unknown reason to us, Jericho blocked Dave.
Oh, what did you do? I've complained about his ponytail for months, and he hasn't blocked me.
I think, I don't know what the fuck I said, but there was something that he tweeted and got me pissed off. Something about Benoit.
Oh, that'll do it.
I think
that'll
it
do
was something about Benoit.
That will do it, man.
Something like Chris Benoit, should he be in the Hall of Fame or whatever the fuck. Someone asked him and he said, hell no, whatever he said. And then I was just one of those people that that said something. Because some people were like, oh, but, you have Scott Hall, you have all these other people who are in there, and why can't he be in it? Based on his wrestling. So I was like, I said, I said something, and he might have blocked me. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what I said, but maybe it got to him.
Yeah, you don't mention Chris Benoit or Chris Jericho. You'll get one. Moral of the story, folks. Lesson learned. Learn through Dave's experience. So I agree with you, Amy.
I love Jericho so much.
Amy, I agree with you. I think what I'm looking for from tomorrow's rally, I wanted to go to Double or Nothing. I actually had the opportunity to get tickets, and I had to turn it down because I couldn't find a babysitter. Life of a parent, wrestling fan parent. Anyway, so that being said, I want to see a couple things out of tomorrow's rally. Obviously, I want to see Kenny Omega. I think we're going to see Pentagon and the Best Friends just get a little bit of screen time because they were just signed. Maybe Jimmy Havoc as well because he was just signed. I'm very curious to see what they do with the women's roster. Because I think, from my standpoint at least, they've built out the tag team division well enough to have a start right now. Their tag team division's essentially about as big as SmackDown's is. You've got the Best Friends, the Lucha Bros, the Young Bucks, SCU, right? That's a good damn start to a tag team division. The heavyweight picture, you got Kenny Omega, you got Cody, you got Pentagon, you got Adam Page, you got Pac, Joey Janela. All of those guys could filter between heavyweight and main card. So all of those guys, to me, they've got their, or I'm sure they're going to add more, but they've got their headliners right now. To me, the only place that's weak is the women. And you've got Britt Baker, who's awesome. I'm not taking anything away from Britt. And I'm not taking anything away from the Bionic Beauty Brandy. But, and then you've got Penelope Ford, who I think has potential to be a future world champion. She's awesome. But 3 is definitely not enough. So I'm expecting a woman announcement tomorrow.
Well, Brandy did mention right after the announcement right after the rally was announced, the very first thing that we heard was from Brandy saying, I think I'll bring a couple of women with me. So I do absolutely expect that we'll see some build-up on that division. And I think that the most incredible thing about AEW right now is that we get to see a promotion being built from the ground up. And at the executive level, you have tag team representation, you have women representation, you have hardcore representation, you have star power representation. All across the board, you have so much to develop and people who are passionate about developing it. And not just taking people who are extremely well known, but going around the world to find these people that just dazzle and amaze and really scout out some fascinating talents. You have this great mix of people who are known to, maybe Jericho obviously is known to everybody, but then you have people like Jimmy Havoc or Joey Janela who are more known to, to indie people. Yep. And then you have people like Stronghearts who I had no idea about. And then I dove into all of this research about them and was basically blown away by their style. It's like Jackie Chan movies meets Lucha Libre meets the Young Bucks. It's just incredible. So I'm really, really excited to see how they're going to build those various aspects of those rosters. And of course, there's, interesting developments with maybe who from WWE might be interested, and there's certainly a lot of talk. And of course, a lot of that I think just has to do with exploring what your options are before you sign a 5-year contract into WWE, right?
Yeah, way to go, Kevin Owens.
Yeah, but I do think that you're going to see a lot of development that isn't necessarily reliant on people from the WWE, for instance. It's just this building up of what is thriving in the wrestling world, and that's awesome.
I do think, and so I think there's a couple things at play here that are incredibly unique about AEW. The first thing is the thing that we talked about the most that we love about WWE is NXT, right? Who was the man that built NXT?
Triple H?
I would say yes, and yes, he is the person that built it from the ground up. Matea's like, where are you going with this? The man that actually taught all of these people their character work, the man that coached all these people to become professional wrestlers.
Yes.
The son of a plumber.
Yeah.
It was Dusty Rhodes. Now,
yep.
So basically the product that we're watching in WWE was the tone was set within that product by the American Dream. And now we get a product built by the American Nightmare, which I think is incredibly cool. And anybody you talk to, first off, I've met Cody. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. But what I've noticed is he's looking at this, and yes, he's a fantastic heel, but he's building it out. Everybody that you talk to will say Dusty is his Cody is his father's son. Like, he's got the exact same mind for the business, might have better business acumen. Literally, I think this guy knows exactly what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, and what he needs to do to get talent over and really build out this promotion. So that's the first fascinating part. The second fascinating part is, Amy, you had mentioned how social media keeps things in your face in today's world, right? And just so you guys know, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show, but I'm an SVP of sales at an influencer marketing company, right? That's my day job. That's what I do for a living. I'm in social media. The thing that fascinates me the absolute most about AEW is it started from a YouTube show, right? I have never seen in my life a community, a family, essentially. I mean, how many people have All Elite with their names in it? A family, a group of people that'll go out and buy t-shirts, not just for the purpose of buying t-shirts, but for the purpose of giving money to support the organization and the cause, right? Essentially, the Young Bucks and Cody have amassed a built-in cult following audience that will follow them wherever they go. And essentially, it's that cult following audience that's the foundation for AEW. But to me, the most fascinating part about this whole experience is that literally you sold 10,000. I think you're going to be able to sell 20,000 with this cult following. It's only going to grow with a massive TV deal. But it all started from social media and with a ground-up YouTube program. To me, that is mind-blowing.
You mentioned how Cody is definitely his father's son, and I think the most consistent thing that I've heard about Dusty is just how kind he was, how nice he was, and how supportive he was. And I think that is something that has helped bolster this community that is around AEW and very excited about AEW, is that it really feels like Cody is a masterful bridge builder. He is somebody that connects communities together and makes people feel very positive about belonging to that community. Even with their rally and their announcements, they're doing free meet and greets where everyone is staying until every single person who has attended those rallies gets to meet them, gets to say hi to them, take a picture with them, whatever. There's very much a close-knit community because it kind of feels like it's what you get back is what you put into it. And I feel like Cody Rhodes is putting into it a very sincere passion and a very sincere drive and a big sense of integrity. And I think people really resonate with that. And I think that's why people are so excited and people are so into supporting that, is because we kind of feel a sense of ownership in this too. Like, it feels like we're a part of this movement, that we're a part of this groundswell. Because we are. I mean, obviously the people who are in that community fill those seats, but beyond that, it feels like a community effort that's something special that we all get to be a part of, and I'm just not sure that there's anything else in the world that feels as connected as that. And I think social media certainly plays a huge part in that, because that's where it's all based from, is, there being the elite shows, their Twitter interactions, their Instagram, all of that comes from that, and it's all that connectivity that we all feel together that builds that strong foundation underneath.
I mean, I can't even tell you how many people I wind up calling brother, that I wind up talking to in about 20 seconds online over something that happened on the Elite. And it's all because that community, that tight-knit feeling. And we brought up Cody, and you brought up the bridge builder that Cody is. I think Nick and Matt Jackson deserve, obviously, a ton of credit as well. And where they deserve credit is, I've actually had the ability to interview Papa Buck, which was a really cool experience. Matthew Lee Massey is a fantastic guy, and you really get a sense of who the Young Bucks are as people by talking with him. He was a Christian singer. The Young Bucks are devoutly Christian. Every interview you hear about them, they talk about how much they care, how much they love people, how they go out of their way to support and help people. I mean, if you even look at an interview Nick did a while back. He's like, every single time you go to a meet and greet and you shake someone's hand, that person becomes an instant fan for life, right? And the more meet and greets you go to and the more hands you shake and the more autographs you sign, the more fans that you have for life. Until at the end of the day, you've met with almost every single person that you need to meet with, and you've amassed such a tremendous following and community just because you've cared enough to do so, right? And that's really powerful. And Matt and Nick get it, and I think that's why them and Cody click so well. It's because they are all kind, all good-hearted, and they all love the wrestling business. Matt and Nick's career started with their own wrestling promotion. They used to throw shows in their backyard and run in I forget exactly what they called it, but Papa Buck was hysterical laughing as he recalled them coming out to Umbop in their backyards, right? So good choice. That's
fantastic.
I was laughing for about 10 minutes as well. I was like, wait, they came out to Umbop? But legitimately the truth. So you could tell that they're kind, good-hearted people too. So, I mean, when you look at the comparisons, right? You look at WWE, and what do you get with WWE? You get Vince McMahon, who is known to be the biggest asshole in the world. And then you get AEW, which is being founded by a guy whose pure message was to bet on himself, and his two friends took that bet with him. So how could you not support that and be behind it? That's why with all these people, and Amy, I've seen you talking about it. I've been talking about it. I'm getting really sick of having to say to people, AEW is not a t-shirt company. AEW is a wrestling company. They've got more traction without a wrestling company, without having to have a single show, than a lot of independent promotions have. And I just don't get all the hate for the promotion.
Well, I think that people have an interesting reaction to change. And I think that when people feel like the thing that they love is threatened in any way, that is a negative thing. We saw the same thing with the New Japan community right around Wrestle Kingdom, because again, we all knew that AEW was going to be forming, and then suddenly there was this massive groundswell online for sort of bashing against the elite or dismissing fans who came into New Japan because of the elite, and this sort of divisiveness in the community. And I think that's just a response that people have to discomfort and to the fear of the unknown. What's going to happen with their favorite companies, or what's going to happen with their favorite wrestlers. I do think that the message that they've been delivering over and over and over again is that they built their entire careers through several different promotions, and they have experiences and relationships with all of these promotions, and they're not ones to burn bridges. I know Jericho likes to, but the elite, those core guys don't. And they have very good relationships with ROH, with Impact, with New Japan, even within WWE. And I think that that's been a really good example for them to set for everyone, is that sincerity and that integrity, that they really do care. They're not out there to take down the big behemoth of WWE. They're out there to do their own thing, and they want people to watch it, and they want to be able to create their own excitement and have the freedom of creativity and flexibility to do so on their own terms. And repeat what they did in All In, which was shine a spotlight on all of this independent talent around the world, where so many people were introduced to people like Tessa Blanchard and Jordan Grace. And, that's the goal that they have. And I think that that's a very wholesome place to start from, which makes people in general feel really good about supporting that. But I do also think that when you've got history, I guess, with, the WCW thing, and then you've got just so much money behind it, that people become a little worried that maybe their favorite people might be going somewhere else. To that, I would say, if you love those wrestlers that much, you're going to watch them wherever they are. Yep. I'm going to watch Kenny Omega wherever he is. If he went to WWE, which I knew he was never going to, but if he did, I would be tuning in every single time to watch him. You just watch your favorite wrestling.
I don't even care if they would have had him sweeping in the back. I would have still been watching.
Quick question. Do you think Kenny is done with, when his career comes to an end, he's going to end in AEW? Or you think he's still going to
if AEW is successful, and I think it will be, I think that Kenny Omega will be the best wrestler to have never wrestled for WWE, which was a moniker previously held by Sting. So he's in really good company. But I think if AEW takes off, there's absolutely no reason for Kenny Omega to ever go to WWE.
Well, no, Kenny Omega was in WWE,
that
so it's
doesn't
not
count.
the first time.
OVW doesn't count.
Okay.
I think Kenny Omega is going to be one of the key people to help build AEW. And I think that because AEW's moniker is change the world.
Yep.
And that's been from day one. And that was something that was Kenny Omega's moniker for the last 6 months, was change the world. And I think that he fits very much into that dynamic of creativity and flexibility and trying new things. And I think that he would love to be in that position. That seems like something that he's talked quite a bit about, is wanting to explore the creative flexibility that he has. He's an impeccable storyteller. He's one of the best storytellers in the wrestling world today. And I think he'll have the freedom to explore all kinds of avenues with AEW. I do think he would also like to keep the relationship with New Japan open. I would hate to speak for Kenny Omega. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Kenny Omega, but he does have a long-standing relationship with Japanese wrestling, with DDT, with New Japan, with Kota Ibushi. He lives in Japan and has for the last 10 years. So I think that just as Jericho has that door to New Japan open, I think that Kenny Omega would like to as well. And I would love to see Kenny Omega in New Japan as well. If he doesn't return to New Japan, I'll watch him in AEW. But I think that he is not in a place where his career is in its sunset days. I think that for him, he's at the peak and prime of his career. And if he goes, and we hear this announcement on Thursday, if he's there, that's going to be an incredible statement for them to make on how they will change the world of wrestling more than they already have.
I 100% agree with you, and I would like to add that I definitely think Kenny will be staying in New Japan. I definitely think Chris Jericho will be in New Japan. I think Trent Beretta is going to stay in New Japan. As you had said, Cody's an excellent bridge builder. And sometimes you have to build a bridge through a person, right? So let's say, for argument's sake, they want the Bullet Club in AEW, and they want Switchblade and the Gorillas of Destiny to do a show for AEW. Fine. We'll give you Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho for the rights to use Switchblade and the Bullet Club faction within our promotion. And Cody's smart enough to do that. And I don't think he would ever shut that off. I think, to me, the partnership with New Japan made absolute sense. It makes sense for Ring of Honor. But now, more so than anything, I think New Japan's going to say to itself, Ring of Honor's a bit of a sinking ship a little bit. Not that it's completely, and they'll rebound. But we're going to get better visibility within the United States if we partner with AEW. And that's going to open up the, let's just say, proverbial pipes to that talent that was coming into Ring of Honor. And it's going to flood into AEW. And then all bets are off. Because you've got already an amazing roster with who's in AEW. But if you start to let Okada and Naito and the Bullet Club join them in AEW, there's going to be some amazing things happen.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that, the Elite were a lot of the faces of their Western expansion.
Yep.
And they were a big part of what drew people in initially. And, I like to say I came into New Japan because I was curious about Jericho and who this Kenny Omega guy was and why Jericho's in Japan all of a sudden. And so I came there for that. I stayed for initially the Kenny Omega matches and then the Young Bucks and Cody. But then within a couple of months, I get to know Okada and Tanahashi and Naito and Sonata and Evil and all of these other people. And, that's why I stayed, was just this whole group of incredible wrestlers and this incredibly different kind of storytelling. So I think that they certainly have a great dynamic with New Japan. Kenny Omega and Okada put on one of the best wrestling matches ever in the history of wrestling.
3 of them.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll tell you what, I will take those 3 hours of those 3 matches over any 3 hours of Raw ever.
100% yes. But so they already have that relationship and that history. I think that that with Sinclair and ROH, I think that New Japan certainly does have a relationship and value and history with them. They send a lot of their guys on excursion with ROH.
Yep.
I think that's something that we may end up seeing with AEW, perhaps. Who knows? Who knows what the future is going to look like with AEW and New Japan? It would be great to see them work together in whatever facet that looks like. They may, at some point down the road, depending on what their direction is and how they shape up to be a place where New Japan sends their talent on excursion. It may be a place like ROH and CMLL where they trade back and forth when their shows. Only time will tell with that, I think.
I 100% agree with you. And I think... Go ahead, Dave.
One other thing I want to say about AEW, I really like their the trainers and the people who they got, like head of talent relations, fucking Christopher Daniels.
Yes,
I love it. I love every second of it.
Like, it's so good.
Your top booker is badass Billy Gunn. It's amazing,
bro.
But look, I've learned this.
I'm surprised Bubba hasn't gone over there.
No, he signed to ROH. He can't. It's the same reason Flip's not there, because I guarantee you Flip and Marty would be there if they could. They can't.
So let me flip a question to you real quick. What are you excited about with Christopher Daniels? Because I totally agree with you on that. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he's a great leader for the ring and for the roster. What are you excited about seeing Christopher Daniels in this role for head talent in AEW?
It's a great question.
I feel like he has the eye for the talent, and he's no young buck. He's close to 50, but he's fucking amazing. He can still, and he's been in there with the guys, with Cody, with the Bucks, and he can still hang. So he knows what the style is. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like he has the awareness, he has the eye for the talent, and him being a wrestler already, I feel like he'll bring in those heavy name talents. You know what I mean?
I'm not, Dave. I'm not as excited about what he can do from wait, hear me out. I'm not excited so much about what he can do from a recruitment standpoint, because I think Cody and the Bucks can do a good enough job of bringing talent in. What I'm excited about with Christopher Daniels in that role is you're talking about a guy who's been wrestling for 30 years. He's wrestled for Ring of Honor. He's wrestled for PWG. He's wrestled for Impact Wrestling. A head of talent relations job is to make sure that talent is happy. This guy has seen the perspective of wrestlers within every single company. He has seen companies thrive. He has seen companies fail. Basically, the elite is... So now that Cody and the Young Bucks are bosses, they're not the boys anymore. As much as they'll want to be, as much as... it'll always be looked at as this is a company by the boys for the boys. I'm sorry, once you become a boss, there's a certain wall that you have to put up on your relationships with people, right? Where Christopher Daniels steps in is in a really unique spot. Is his job is essentially to be the big brother of the roster and quell any of that doubt that starts to rise. And look, they're starting a company. I've worked startups my whole career. I can tell you there's some days where you want to just jump out a damn window, right? Because you're sitting there and you're losing your mind and things aren't going the way that you want them to. And you know what happens? There's always that one guy that can come in and be like, all right, things are fine. Stop it. It's going to be okay. And then that same guy is the guy that's going to Cody and being like, look, I just want to let you know Jimmy Havoc's causing some shit in the locker room. Keep your eye on it, right? So to me, the reason I'm excited about CD is because of his experience and the way that he's seen companies go up and down, he knows what to look for and can make sure that doesn't happen from within the AEW locker room.
Yeah, I think he's got a good voice for being a mediator. He's multilingual as far as promotions go. I also think he is he's a great bridge builder. I mean, we saw what he did with Stephen Amell in All In, and you have this guy who really wants to participate in wrestling, and he's training and he's doing all the things necessary. He's not just a movie star coming in to go play around in a ring. Like, he really wanted to wrestle, and you see the camaraderie and the confidence and the empowerment and the motivation that Christopher Daniels can give to people in those rings. And I think that having someone who can motivate you and empower you and lend an ear to your concerns if you have them and be able to act as a mediator between the two is a great thing. I also think that he could be an excellent trainer too, if that's something that they end up developing.
But he's not. He's not head of talent relations. He's head of talent acquisition, I think.
No, it was relations. If you look at if you look at how they positioned him in both videos, there was 2 videos that came out this week. There was Being the Elite, and then there was Road to Double or Nothing, right? Road to Double or Nothing is the more reality-based series, where Being the Elite, the TV show, right? In Being the Elite, they basically had CD sitting in the middle of Cody and Hangman Page, basically being the mediator, even though both of them hurt each other, which was kind of comical. I love those guys. They're way too funny. But CD, with the blur over his face because of his mouth, was playing the mediator. Flip to Double or Nothing, Road to Double or Nothing, and, they're sitting there watching the video on Jimmy Havoc, and he's like, Cody, this guy is something special. He's legit, right? And trying to broker that negotiation for him. So, I mean, you saw the role that Christopher Daniels is taking on, just in a fictionalized form, I think.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, either or, I feel that he, like you guys were saying, he has that, that bridge control, and I feel like it's gonna play some sort of, something's gonna happen in that roster with that guy there. But he's special.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
He always has.
Totally agreed.
Now, as far
and then
as
you have guys like Billy Gunn coming in, and I'm excited to see what other talents come in, like Bruce Pritchard or Tom Pritchard, or you know what I mean. I don't know. It's just creative is going to be great there.
I think it's going to be great too. Now, I'm going to flip a question to you guys. We've been hearing about forever the TV deal, right? The TV deal's coming. There's a TV deal in the works. There's no TV deal. I don't think there was ever a doubt that the TV deal was with one company. And I think they've been negotiating that TV deal because those things take years, right? I think they've been negotiating that TV deal since before they announced AEW. I think it's always been Turner. I think that Cody has had his eyes on that prize since day one. I think that the Khan family has the relationships to make that happen. And just for the fact that they went with the name Tuesday Night Dynamite as a call or throwback to Monday Night Nitro, I think that there's never been anyone else. I think they only wanted to negotiate with Turner. I think maybe they took other offers to jack up the pricing, but to me, that TV deal has always been Turner, and I think that's going to be announced soon too.
That's going to be so good to see. Oh, I'm so ready.
Yeah, I agree. I think that certainly, of course, this has been something that's been in the works longer than a month. But absolutely. And I do think that they have the resources that build that strong foundation and give them their backbone to make that happen. I think that they may potentially have been speaking with WGN America, who aired their pre-show for All In. Yep. Turner is certainly the big name and the one that's probably the most likely to come out. But I think that there are a lot of things that take time in that. You've got to make sure that people on both sides can deliver what they want in these negotiations as far as ratings or as far as, what style they're going to be having for their TV shows. I'm sure insurance, there's a whole host of considerations that I'm certainly not privy to, just a few of them, to go into something like that. So, it is something that takes time, and it is something that is worth looking at what your options are, as far as different companies, different TV routes, what your access can be, all of that. And I think that, some of that may be to bolster their numbers, but I think probably a lot of that too just gives them more credibility. The more people that they're talking to, the more other companies are like, oh, dude, you're talking to them? Oh, okay, cool. That lends legitimacy there. And I think they certainly have the resources with the funding and with the network of connections that everybody has in this together, including the Khan family behind that.
Yep. And I think the Khan family brings a lot more to the table than people give them credit for. A lot of people talk about the money. A lot of people talk about the fact that they've run a sports team, which are both very valid points. But I think where there's even more exponential value is the connections that come with running an NFL franchise. So I think that you've hit that right on the head to Amy. Those connections are what is making this company what it is.
Oh, absolutely. It's the reason why they had relationships with stadiums before they even announced AEW.
Yep.
If you looked at, All Elite Wrestling's Twitter in December when they first put it out there, before it actually had a photo or anything, all they were following was 13 stadiums. Yep. And those were stadiums that they had relationships with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's something I think that cannot be understated, is just how powerful those resources are and how quickly they'll be able to sort of fall into this already pre-established framework of stadiums and access to TV networks and different types of merchandising, certainly production. The production for their videos, for the Double or Nothing sort of Road to videos, is really great. The production for their pyrotechnics, all of that stuff I think is going to be something that they'll already have a pre-established framework to fall into, which is fantastic for them to start a promotion with. They don't have to build that from the ground up.
I 100% agree with you. And I think that we could talk about AEW forever. As a matter of fact, what you guys don't know is we've spent about half an hour talking before this episode.
We did.
So we could talk about AEW forever. And we've already talked about the potential impact it'll have on WWE. And we've spoken briefly about New Japan and Ring of Honor. But where I want to take this conversation now is we're talking about the state of wrestling here. And there are still New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor. Obviously, there was the upfront impact of the Elite leaving. But I think there's been a bit... I think Ring of Honor obviously has taken the bigger hit. And New Japan has forced themselves to shuffle. Amy, I know that you're the go-to with New Japan. That's your favorite. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how, outside of just the Elite leaving, how the Elite leaving has kind of reshaped the New Japan landscape.
So Wrestle Kingdom 13 was a very interesting situation because we saw every single title change hands at Wrestle Kingdom 13. I don't know if that's ever happened before. If it has, it's certainly an exceptionally rare situation to have happen on a major show like that. And I think that the Elite leaving New Japan is a big deal. Now, I certainly think New Japan will recover from it. They have before, when Shinsuke left, when AJ left, when you've had these big names leave before to pursue other avenues, they've certainly come out of it, and they've come out of their dark ages. They have a history of being perseverant and being able to come out and just go through a kind of shift and come out the other side strong or stronger than ever before. I do think that they are in that shift right now, and I think that the Elite leaving is a big part of that. If you look at the storylines that they had over 2018, the Elite were a big part of every single storyline, every single title that they had. That's just evident by the fact that they had to drop so many at Wrestle Kingdom. I do think, though, that they are coming out with a strong kick with that. They've got their Jay White storyline with Tanahashi and Okada. They have an interesting intrigue with Tanahashi and Okada themselves. They have Naito placed in a role of prominence, which was something that fans were clamoring to see over the last few years. So I think that they have a significant roster in and of themselves that they can handle the waves of this transition period. I do think they are in a transition period, but I think that they'll come out just fine, and they're a strong company with a lot of love and a lot of just incredible talent to sort of make that go forward. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and especially how that plays out during, the G1 and after the MSG show and towards the next Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, and I think the thing that I admire the most about New Japan Pro Wrestling is that they totally get what it takes to build up a character. At the beginning of the All Elite Wrestling rally, Cody said wins and losses are going to matter. And I think there's no company that proves that wins and losses matter more than New Japan Pro Wrestling. They understand when to make a person lose and when to make a person win, and the exact balance of that. Like look at Okada, right? Okada's the perfect example. Okada was unbeatable for 3 years, right? All of a sudden, he loses to Kenny Omega, and he loses his damn mind. He dyes his hair red. He starts coming out with a red balloon and red pants, right? everybody's making fun of the guy, but what New Japan was doing was breaking him down so that they could build him back up, right? Let's have Okada lose. Let's have Okada lose. Okada losing to Jay White's going to elevate Jay White. Okada losing to this one's going to elevate this one. And they used the name Okada to build up several of their young talents, but at the same time, what they were doing was breaking Okada down. And now the story of Okada's resurrection becomes that much stronger. And that's what New Japan gets.
It becomes him having all of his pillars of strength and foundation and everything that he identified as himself as the great Rainmaker crumbling down around him, and then extending an arm out of desperation, and then the one person to lift him out of that rubble is his greatest rival, Tanahashi. That's an incredible storyline. And, you know, if there's anything that Gedo does extremely well, it's long-term booking. Yep. And the Elite leaving certainly was a hit, but it's not going to be an all-encompassing thing that could destroy them. You know, they have an incredible trajectory coming out of this, and just some of the most incredible characters in wrestling, some of the most incredible storylines in wrestling. So they're going to be absolutely fine. Oh, and they also have their new upstarts, their young lions. They have Shota, they have Red Narita, they have all of these guys that people are really excited, almost drooling to see come onto the main roster or go on an excursion. They already have this sort of cycle of people to come out and be their new top stars, and developing these storylines in putting them in place so that people will be engaged in watching this. I mean, they're fantastic, and they're going to just take off with or without them, honestly.
Amy, I'm fully convinced that, remember how they said Jay White was always the guy? That Jay White was always supposed to be the leader of Bullet Club? I'm fully convinced that Gedo is so damn good at long-term booking that literally he really was always supposed to be Devitt's replacement. That he wasn't ready just yet, so they elevated Kenny Omega to take out Styles. They put Styles in there knowing that he was a temporary solution. They knew they wanted to do something with the Bullet Club. I'm really convinced that the thing that Fale said, where it was always Jay White, I think it really was always Jay White.
Well, you had Jay White come back from his excursion. You know, he's such a fascinating story. Now, I'll try to be quick with this because it kind of sidetracks a little bit. But you have Jay White comes up at the Young Lion system, absolutely idolizing Tanahashi. You watch these old matches, and the Young Lions usually disappear into the background. They're not really seen prominently, but Jay White is slapping the mat. He's throwing his fists up in the air. When Tanahashi wins, he loves him. He goes on excursion. He finds his dark side. He comes back, and who does he challenge? He challenges Tanahashi, because Tanahashi fell from grace, and suddenly Jay White is a person who seeks out weakness, and he wants to destroy it. So he challenges Tanahashi for the Intercontinental title, fights a match with him, and it's just, this is something that's set up from the very get-go. So I think they do have that storyline in place for Jay White. I do think they have the confidence in Jay White. And for me, last year I saw someone like Jay go from this guy who looks like John Cusack, who's writing Bad Nine Inch Nails poetry, and then you go into the G1 special and you see this guy who has nuclear heat. The crowd hates him, and he thrives on that. And I think that he really does have the potential to be this big, epic monster villain that people have to rally together themselves to overcome. And that's going to be a great story that New Japan's going to tell over the next year and a half, I think.
I agree. And you know what's funny? People have been saying for a long time that actually, I think it was What Culture came out and said Bullet Club is dead. And me and Dave have had several conversations on the show where the Elite took Bullet Club to where it never was supposed to be. Bullet Club was always supposed to be the evil heel faction, right? The evil foreigners that have come and invaded Japan. And what the Elite did was they made, between their merchandise, their likability, their coolness, they made the Bullet Club cool. So people became invested in the Bullet Club, and they became favorites, the Elite Bullet Club, so to speak. Now, don't get me wrong, people loved Devitt, people loved AJ Styles, but the Elite really made it cool to be a part of the Bullet Club. I mean, I think half of that closet behind me is Bullet Club t-shirts, right? Everybody was about the Bullet Club. And they were never supposed to be the good guys. Not once in the New Japan storyline. So they needed to get Kenny out of that top spot. They needed to break the Elite away from Bullet Club, because the true design of Bullet Club is to be the villains.
I agree. And, it'll be interesting to see how they play with that, especially with good guy Tama Tonga coming in and having these hilarious moments where he's just trying so hard to be good, and his brothers around him are like, dude, what the hell is your problem? Go kick his ass.
That was the greatest, the face he made. Oh my God.
I want to see him go head to head with Jay White and take leadership of the Bullet Club, damn it.
It's not going to happen, buddy. I'm sorry. I don't want to break your heart. I don't want to, spoil your dreams, but I love the Gorillas of Destiny, and I think the Gorillas of Destiny are here to stay.
No, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to break away from his brother. But he can go and take that spot.
See, that's one thing I don't see much of in New Japan that I think you will see a lot of in AEW. I think in AEW, the parts will be a lot more interchangeable. I feel like in New Japan, if you're a tag team, you're a tag team, for the most part. Whereas in AEW, with the exception of the Young Bucks, who I don't think will ever wrestle individually, I like Pentagon and Phoenix. You could break those two up as single wrestlers. Best Friends, you could break them up as single wrestlers. SCU, all three of them singles wrestlers. So, I mean, there is that dynamic in New Japan that once you're in a tag team, you kind of are a tag team. Like the actual tag teams, not like the random we put Hangman Page and Marty Scurll together, but like the actual formed tag teams, Killer Elite Squad, Gorillas of Destiny. Those guys kind of stay together. So I just don't see, I mean, they have his singles matches, but I just don't see him ever breaking out of Gorillas of Destiny.
I mean, he doesn't have to. It could be a Harlem Heat situation where Booker T got over and, his brother, whenever they tagged, they were Harlem Heat. You know what I mean?
Do you want me to go buy Tonga Loa a bicycle and a beanie again and tell him to go play the Macho in WWE?
Hey man, anything is a possibility. You never know. It could happen.
If Tonga Loa comes out in a bicycle and a beanie, I will buy that man a drink. Just because that would be the most amazing nod to Vince McMahon. I'm in a successful tag team now. Fuck you. Here's your bicycle. Someone go find Unico. It would be amazing. So that covers New Japan. Amy, I agree with you. Dave, I know you follow Ring of Honor a little bit closer. How do you think Ring of Honor is going to do without the Elite?
No, they're going to do great. They still have Marty. They still have Flip.
Yeah, but Marty's gone. Marty's gone come April.
Yeah, but they still got him until he's leaving. They got Paul Silas, I think is his name. Paul Silas. They got Bubba Ray. Dude, you never heard of Paul? What is it? Paul Silas? Yeah, that's his name.
I have no idea who Paul Silas is. That sounds like some 80s musician. I don't know who the hell you're talking about.
Oh my God.
Isn't that Miley Ray Cyrus's dad? What?
No.
No.
Dude, look him up. He's one of their champions. I forgot what title he holds. But dude is this guy is he reminds me like a James Storm. But
Silas Young, bro. Silas Young. I turn to you to give me the Ring of Honor recap, and you give me Billy Ray Cyrus.
I don't know why I always call him Paul Silas. I don't know why, but I know it's something Silas. That guy, Silas Young. That guy is fucking.
Oh, he's
amazing.
Awesome. He reminds me a lot. He's a throwback, right? If the Revival, if the Revival were in Ring of Honor, I could see the Revival with him as a faction because they're real men's men.
Yeah, like that. That guy. I mean, they have a bunch of. I think they'll be great. I think they'll do great.
Ring of Honor to me has always been about adaptation, and losing the Elite might be the single biggest blow. But they've lost CM Punk, they've lost Daniel Bryan, they've lost Samoa Joe, they've lost Kevin Steen, they've lost El Generico, they've lost AJ Styles. Kind of they've lost Tyler Black, Seth Rollins. 90% of WWE's roster right now is Ring of Honor. So I do believe that they will rebound. I think they are putting a lot of stock in Marty building up PCO and Brody King. I think they are putting a lot of stock in Matt Taven, as they should. Matt Taven is the man. Oh my God, Matt Taven's a future superstar. The guy is amazing. I'm telling you, Amy, have you watched much of Matt Taven's work?
No, but I have seen bits of Ring of Honor here and there. I watched some of it because, I would go in and be like, what are the Elite guys, Bullet Club guys doing? I've watched Final Battle. That was amazing. One of the things that was really impressive about Ring of Honor was their announced signees after the Elite left. Because to me, and I'm a casual ROH viewer, so I'm just going to get that out right out the gate. To me, having what looked like almost half your roster leaving is a huge deal. And I wasn't sure if there was going to be enough to come back from that. That's a big loss. But Ring of Honor has signed Bandito. They've got Jay Lethal still. I mean, there's a lot. They've got Jonathan Gresham, who I was really impressed with during the Final Battle match, because they had this guy, they kept referring him to as the Octopus. And I'm like, no, man, the Octopus is Zack Sabre Jr. Who else do you call the Octopus? That's not his, no. And then I see Jonathan Gresham come out. I'm like, oh, okay, damn.
Yeah, he's good. He's damn good.
All right. Yeah, he's really, really good. And you've got Juice Robinson building up the Lifeblood faction, Marty Scurll building up his Villain Enterprise faction. I think that they're doing a great job adapting. Oh, and Jeff Cobb is amazing.
And don't forget our boy Flip Gordon.
Yes. So there are some interesting things with that. I do think that, with Flip Gordon has a potential to join AEW. I do think that Marty Scurll has a potential to join AEW or NXT. Those two different things seem to be possibilities. Certainly one of them is more strong than the other, but I think that they're going to potentially end up losing those guys. Not completely sure about Flip, though. I think the difference is how they build them up. So just like WWE, with the advent of AEW, suddenly you have these other companies that are finding themselves in a position where they really need to take care of the guys that they want to keep. They have to take care of them. They have to book them well. They have to pay them well. They have to take care of their guys. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of that with ROH and New Japan, and everybody's just going to be taking care of their guys because they want to keep them there.
It's almost creating a sports team-like environment if you think about it. It's like now you're a part of a team. You're part of AEW. You're part of Ring of Honor. You're part of WWE. That is a team. Very much like ECW used to consider themselves a family or a team, and that created an amazing promotion. It's, are you Team WWE? And if you're not happy in WWE, you're going to demand to be released so that you could go sign with another team. And that's a pretty wild environment because pro wrestling's... Look, there's been times in the past where pro wrestling has had multiple promotions. WWE, WCW, ECW, Ring of Honor was around at the time as well. So, I mean, you look at all of this and you say, well, what now makes it so much different that now, back then it created great competition and great storylines and there was great back and forth. But I think now it's even in a different spot because now, like everything else in society, it's almost about like fighting for the individual rights of the wrestler, which is a really cool concept to try to wrap your head around. Because yes, Kevin Nash went to WCW for guaranteed money, but he wasn't trying to, get health insurance for all the boys. He wasn't trying, this is what the environment that we're coming into, which is really wild.
Absolutely. I want to see a draft.
I do too.
I want to see a public draft of pro wrestling.
Well, how about this? Let's not do a draft. So we know that AEW is basically the favorite promotion of the three people. Amy, am I correct to assume that you are Team AEW of the three?
I think right now, yes, because it's new, but I can't really say that I like AEW more than something like New Japan, which I absolutely adore. So I think I'm going to put them both on equal but different playing fields.
Okay, got it. So, Amy's mixed. Dave is Team AEW, I know it. If you ask him, do you watch WWE? I call him up, I'm like, Dave, we got to talk about Raw for the show. I don't watch that fucking garbage. Do me a favor, Dave, please go and watch Raw. That's literally what I deal with Dave. The most amazing guy. He'll literally, dude, please go watch Raw.
It's because I can't sit through 3 hours of fucking garbage.
Watch the Hulu.
Totally fair, dude.
Watch the Hulu version. Fair. I keep the Hulu version on while I work in the background.
That's what I do. I put the Hulu on, and I don't even watch it. That's the sad shit. It's just there playing. So this is where I've got a couple of fun questions for us now. I'm gonna ask 3 different questions right now. I want everybody's answer. If you could draft one person to AEW from the Indies right now, who would it be?
And then I'll ask
Tessa
Ring of Honor.
Sorry, I already had my answer. I was
Amy, I love you. That was the best answer ever. I was going to say from Impact, which we've totally skipped over Impact, which is horrible. We're just like, that's there. It kind of exists. No, I agree with you. If I had to choose one person for AEW, it would be Tessa Blanchard. What I meant by the indies is the actual independent scene, not like the big promotions. I'm going to get into the big promotions in a second. But if you had to take one person from the independent scene that you've seen something about or that you've heard something about, who would you want to join AEW? Like the Jimmy Havoc type signing yesterday, right? Something like that.
I gotta say I'm not as familiar with the independent scene because there's so much wrestling to watch and so little time. So I really don't know. So I think the only one that I could give would be someone like Jordan Grace, which I know just joined Impact.
But
so
that's
there's
fine.
Impact again.
I'm gonna
sorry, Impact, I'm taking your roster.
You know what's hilarious? I would take Impact's roster in a second. I just wish Impact knew what to do with them.
Yeah. I think Jordan Grace is an absolute firehouse badass. If it's not going to be someone like Tessa Blanchard, I know it's the same promotion, but man, she is just incredible. And she's only 23. I was watching some of her indie matches in New York, I think from, last year or something. She's incredible. So I would go with her.
Jordan Grace it is. Dave Duran.
I'm going to say Nick Aldis.
Really?
Yeah.
The Spartan Soldier? What do I call him? I've got some funny nicknames for that dude. You would say Nick Aldis. Okay, look, he's an indie guy. He's a free agent. I don't think it's a bad move. My selection would be Austin Theory.
Oh, I love that guy too.
I think Austin Theory is a budding superstar who would work out really well in AEW. All right, so now, Amy, I'm going to turn it over to Impact Wrestling. If AEW had a chance to take one superstar from Impact Wrestling, the answer, I know it's coming.
Tessa Blanchard!
There it is. All right, Tessa Blanchard.
That's the unanimous
Tessa Blanchard.
Unanimous answer right there.
All right, so Tessa, I'm actually going to cut this out as a clip. Tessa, you have 3 unanimous. Get the fuck out of Impact Wrestling and go to AEW. This is coming from your fans. All right.
Okay, but hold on a second if you're going to cut that out. Also, Tessa, we love what you're doing in Impact, and if you want to stay there, that's okay too, because you're totally killing it. But I really want to see you build up AEW.
Throw some diamonds up. Throw some diamonds up for Tessa Blanchard.
There we go.
Love you. I will cut that, Amy, I promise, and we'll put that on social. All right.
Nice.
If we're going to take one talent from Ring of Honor, who would it be?
Damn, one.
That's hard.
I'm not going to count Marty because I already count Marty as part of it. He's coming. So let's.
I hate to take their new badass, but I'd have to say Bandito. I know that they were looking for him originally, but he couldn't make that commitment because at that time, they just didn't really have anything set in stone because they weren't official yet because they were all still locked in contracts. They couldn't legally make those promises or set out for those roads, but they did pursue Bandito. I think watching Bandito with the Lucha Brothers, with Kenny Omega, with Jericho, everybody would be amazing. If I'm not going to go after their new signee, who's like a badass, Flip Gordon would be great. Flip Gordon against MJF, acting as Cody's bodyguard, or not bodyguard, but liaison, with that sort of backstabby, scheming, like Miz kind of character that he has, would be awesome. And the interactions with Brandy, so I'll go with Flip.
Dave?
I'm going to say Matt Taven.
Very good choice. Interesting selection, sir, and I agree. I think it'd be a great addition, but I think you'd have to take the whole kingdom with him. I think it'd have to be Matt Taven in the kingdom.
Okay.
And then,
he'll probably have enough people there to...
My selection, Amy, I'm mirroring your selection. My selection would absolutely be Flip Gordon. I think the guy he fits into their overall performance style that they're building. He's a former U.S. Army hero. He is a very likable white meat babyface in a time where people don't like white meat babyfaces. So to me, if there was one guy I would take from Ring of Honor, it would be Flip Gordon. Because I think Flip's literally got the potential where you could build a division around him. 150%. All right. So the next promotion is New Japan. Amy, I know you're going to find this one really tough.
God! All right. Let me think on this for a second while you guys talk it out.
I'll skip to Dave. Dave, who would you take from New Japan?
Fucking A, Charlie.
Listen, this is a fun exercise. I think it's fun speculation. And then there's gonna be that dick that watches this video and is gonna be like, Okada's not going to AEW.
I'm going to say I'll take from New Japan to AEW. Fucking A, man. I'll take Naito.
It's a good choice. It's a very good choice. As a matter of fact, it is also my choice. I would choose Tranquilo. I would choose Tetsuya Naito. My second runner-up would probably be Zack Sabre Jr. Or Will Ospreay. Those three would be the three that I would choose. I think Ospreay fits the style of AEW the best, but I think you do need contrasting styles, and I could only imagine what a match between Naito and Pentagon would be like.
But yeah, I would say the other two I would pick would be, what's the guy's name? The Englishman?
Englishman? There's a couple of them.
The guy, Ospreay.
Ospreay's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it had to be Ospreay
and look, Ospreay is one I could definitely see defecting eventually, because he's going to get to the point where once he gets through the heavyweight division, he's going to have reached the ceiling in Japan, and he's going to want to look for success in the States. I do see him as a guy that would want that WWE route, but then again, WWE turned him down for years, so maybe he would go to AEW. Who knows?
I would like to see Jay White in AEW. I feel like him and Jimmy Havoc can make like that, not scary, but
pretty
dark fucking group.
All right, I agree with you. All right, you got it, Amy?
3 answers for you.
3 answers is fine. Let's go with it.
Okay, I'll go with the first one that's probably the most obvious one, which would be Kota Ibushi, because you've already got the path there.
Wow.
And you've already got the sort of free agent status there, and how incredibly mind-blowing and earth-shattering would it be to not just announce Kenny Omega, but also Kota Ibushi, who's one of the best wrestlers in the world. So that would be incredible.
And also Kenny's favorite person in the world.
Well, they still have a storyline that they have together, a really epic 10-year storyline that they could really explore creatively there. So, absolutely. If I were going dream booking, that's nowhere in the realm of possibility of jumping ship to go to another company, but would be great to see wrestle if they were to form that partnership later on, would be Okada.
Yep.
I loved the balloons. I did. I loved them. So the reason why I loved them is because it showed a different side of Okada. So he has character. He has flexibility. He also puts on some of the best matches with people. Not only with Kenny Omega, but he put on my favorite match at All In was the match with him and Marty Scurll.
Yes, and a great story too. Fantastic story.
Absolutely. So definitely that. And then Ospreay is a fantastic pick because he just could fit in anywhere. He's got a great relationship with those guys as well. And if he did it, 3 years down the line, because I know he just signed a long contract with Japan and is looking to move to Japan. If he were to do it down the line, then AEW might have insurance in place by then, and they can take care of Ospreay. So.
Yeah, and he will need it. And I think what you just said that's really interesting about the whole Marty Scurll thing, about the Marty match, is I think if he doesn't sign with AEW, it's because they don't want him on their damn card ever again.
They're going to have a contract stipulation that's like, when we say this time, it means this time.
Yes.
I will say, though, that even though the match ran long, and even though it was absolutely clear to anybody who watched it with the ref screaming at him that the match ran long, that given what ended up happening where the Bucks were still able to put on a great match with the people that they wanted to highlight, that match needed to be longer than 11 minutes because it told an amazing story. It was an incredible match, and it needed that time. Yep. And hopefully they'll be able to figure out, AEW is going to have ups and downs and things to learn from as they go. They've already got a great outset of mistakes that they've learned from in the past, especially with Cody's father, and just, all of them know what works and what doesn't, but they're going to have their own mistakes to make. And I think that that's probably one of them, is just figuring out time management and how to deal with that. That may be something, that we saw at All In, that might be something going forward. So I think that as much love and praise and adoration as I give to AEW, I also think it's worth looking realistically at what opportunities there are for them to learn and to grow, and I think they'll handle that.
Yeah, I agree.
100% agree. And guys, we have one more promotion before we wrap up. Who from WWE do you want to see in All Elite Wrestling? I have one clear-cut answer for this one, but I'll start from the far. Amy, who do you want from WWE and AEW?
I want to see the Good Brothers. I think that would be fun. There are a lot of big choices, a lot of big name choices. The Revival would be great. Dean Ambrose would be great. AJ Styles would be great. Shinsuke would be amazing. But I think it would be really fun to see the Good Brothers in there. I think that they've got some great history with them. I think that they're solid ring workers. I think that there's a lot of creativity for them to explore. They really wanted to do the Botch Club thing, and that got shut down. And I love Botchamania, so I'm not even going to go into that whole comparison thing. But I think there's a lot of room for them in there that could be a lot of fun. If there was like a big name person, then, perhaps somebody like Dean Ambrose or Randy Orton could be great. I
heard those Randy rumors.
I did too.
There are Randy rumors.
He's checking out his option.
Which is really interesting because Randy, I call him Randy Borton at this point in WWE. So, I would love to see him get a fresh look, go up against a guy like Pentagon. Again, I love throwing people against Pentagon because he's a psychopath. And Randy versus Pentagon would just be fantastic. Dave, who's your WWE choice?
My WWE choice would be Becky Lynch.
That's a really far-fetched one, but it's an amazing one, but incredibly far-fetched and will never happen. You got a better chance of Sasha Banks going than Becky Lynch. And Mercedes CV showing up would be pretty dope, but Becky Lynch ain't happening, bro. I'm sorry.
Oh, can I interrupt real quick?
Yep.
So you mentioned before Nick Aldis, right?
Yep.
If they had Nick Aldis, they could get Mickie James over, who would basically be like Christopher Daniels for the women's division and build up a kick-ass women's division with Mickie James, who's an absolute powerhouse. So you could have her.
Love Mickie James. Nothing but love for Mickie James. I love that she's putting people over, too. Twilight of her career, coming back for that last Mr. Perfect WWE run where comes out, throws his towel, and loses. But it's a good vibe when a legend does that. Cena's doing it right now too. My choice, clear cut, would be Finn Balor. I think that if Prince Devitt showed up at AEW, the world would change instantly. I think that WWE is seriously underutilizing a guy that's got the talent to literally carry the company on his shoulders. If they would let him be Prince Devitt, get a couple guys to protect him around him because of his size like they did with the Bullet Club, and let Prince Devitt, or Finn Balor in this case, run roughshod all over AEW, I think there would be nothing to stop them from being just as large as the WWE. I think Finn Balor has that much talent.
I think Twitter's servers would go down if they announced Finn Balor. Twitter would explode and the internet would get shut down.
Well, because people feel the same way about Finn Balor as they do about Becky Lynch. It's just WWE is giving us the Becky Lynch push and then sort of giving us the Finn Balor push, but sort of not. You know what I mean? Like they're giving it to us and saying, we're featuring him. He's on TV.
You know what they're gonna do? It's gonna be again Seth versus Balor at some point, and that's how the feud is gonna go. Over again.
So my opinion, just so you know from my perspective, what I think is gonna happen is Finn is going to take the Intercontinental title from Bobby Lashley, which is fine. He needs that title. Let him build back up that way. I think Seth is taking the title off Brock at Mania, which will finally put an end to this whole unbeatable champion. Seth will show up every week. And then Seth maybe loses it to a Finn that turns heel, or, maybe Seth loses it to Bobby Lashley, maybe, whatever the case may be. With Seth as champion, it's believable that he can lose. Whereas with Brock, they've built him up in such a way where it's like, all right, champion comes, defends in 3 minutes, leaves, and it's done. Like, it lends more credibility to each of the wrestlers on the talent if a guy like Seth, on the roster of Seth Rollins holds the title, because every week someone could beat him. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, like, there's a lot of guys they could build back up in that regard. So, guys, I think this has been an amazing conversation. We've been talking on camera for an hour and a half. Certainly a lot of good... certainly a lot of good nerd-worthy clips. My wife is probably downstairs, like, I need to get in my bedroom at some point. But Amy, sincerely appreciate having you on. You are always welcome back. Next time, I promise to give you notice. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Seriously, it's been great. And hopefully you come back next time. We'll talk after the AEW rally, and we'll see what goes on from there. Dave, always good to talk to you, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I love when Dave goes on. Amy, have you noticed Dave's tirades? Dave's got the most awesome tirade. He's like, I just don't get... It's amazing.
I love it. It's great.
So,
thank you so much for having me on. This has been absolutely delightful, and I've loved every minute of it.
Well, always happy to talk
Thank
to you, Amy, and we will continue this. And we will continue this on Twitter. Until next time, folks. One more time, we're going to ask you to please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on. We want you guys to kick out with us. It's 10 o'clock Eastern time. It's later for Amy. We ask you guys to please have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.